Bloody hell. You alright?
No,
It's
horrendous.
horrendous, wasn't it?
That means you need to change it, the time.
Change the time. No, it's me getting me on back. Next week it's 8:15. Yeah.
Steve, if I can get your reactions first of all to the transfer window, how would you describe it?
Well, a lot of people had put a lot of work in, that's for sure. And to bring in the 5 that we did in, well, I've only been here 3 weeks, is quite remarkable, really, the turnaround. And I think it's give everybody a little bit of excitement, which is obviously the club needs. And I'm delighted with what we've done. Why wouldn't I be? It's we've addressed the top end of the pitch, which I think has been vitally important, of course, with the couple of players who left. So all in all, yeah, very, very good, very, very pleased.
Was that a concern for you when you arrived that you might not be able to get as much work done in such a short period of time?
Well, you always worry because we were starting late, so you always worry, but how many times do you see it that most teams, Watford is another one, who leave it late, so in an ideal world you would have loved to have had 3 months at it, but in the 3 weeks we've done very, very well. I'm pleased and delighted with what we've done.
You kept Andy Carroll up your sleeve until late. How pleased are you to have him back at the club?
Well, it was just a conversation with Andy. He was desperate, a bit like myself, I suppose. He was desperate to come back. And of course, the big question mark of everybody is can we get him back quickly and can he stay fit? If he stays fit, then a fit Andy Carroll is as good as you're going to get. So we'll do we're utmost. He is determined to come and be successful again here. It's his hometown club. It was a no-brainer, really. One of them ones where you're delighted to do it.
He certainly looks in good shape. He says he's been doing a lot of running training right throughout the summer. When do you expect him to get back on the pitch, though?
I think. Well, he's in first this morning. Of course, we had a medical with him. He was back on the grass at West Ham in a running capacity. We're not going to put any real time scale on. I think that would be unfair on Andy, but certainly he's not going to be seen in the next 2-3 weeks, that's for sure. So, but we've bought him. He's here in a 1-year contract for the rest of the season. So let's hope when the winter sets in that we can get Andy up and running.
What sort of role do you see him playing, not just on the pitch but off it as well? I mean, I suppose it's good to have another Geordie voice in the dressing room.
Yeah, well, I mean, now all of a sudden he's not young Andy Carroll anymore. He's at that veteran stage, and but make no mistake, when the club sold him for a record fee, he was the best pound for pound centre forward there was around in the country, and he's unfortunately in the last couple of years in particular has picked up a nasty ankle injury. So he can do a lot off the pitch, just as much in the dressing room, and that's why we've really bought him as well, to give us that hand in that dressing room.
I think the feeling is that you've been backed and you've kind of intimated that yourself there. Yeah. Is it a case of over to you now, Steve?
Yeah, the pressure's on me, of course, but you'd rather have it that way. That's the way it should be. I'm under no illusion. As soon as you walk through the door here, there's a certain pressure on you, but that's why I'm here. We couldn't have wished for a more difficult start in Arsenal, but let's hope we can get off and running and give the fans something to shout about.
It's been a whirlwind 3 weeks.
You can say that again.
Yeah. Do you feel, are you ready for the new season, or could you done with a bit more time?
In an ideal world, you'd have loved a full 6 weeks, 7 weeks, 8 weeks crack at it, but hey, I'm not going to complain. When the phone call came 3 weeks ago, as I've said many times, I was like a kid in a sweet shop. So it's in an ideal world, yes, you'd like it a bit longer, but we've done as much as we possibly can. I think going out to China helped enormously, even though we were only there for 2-3 days. It got to know people instantly, and I think that was important. So yeah, good to start.
A lot said in the last few weeks, I suppose all summer, about the planned boycott on Sunday. Are you concerned at all about the atmosphere before and during the match?
Well, look, I think I've said it last week. Everybody's entitled to boycott if that's what they want to do. They pay their hard-earned money, and they're entitled to their opinion, of course, and we have to respect that. For me personally, of course, I don't want it to upset the team, and we know what a full St James's Park's like for any team coming here. So I hope that, and I'm convinced that they will, that I and the team will give them something to shout about. I'm sure they'll enjoy seeing the new players that we've brought, especially at the top end of the pitch. And of course, like they always will do, and then what makes it the unique club it is, they get behind the team, and that's never wavered. You know, we hadn't got off to a great start last year. However, the Geordie faithful stayed patient and knew that the club would turn it around. So I hope that it doesn't affect the team, because that's all I can focus on, and giving them a team that they're proud of, and giving them a team that they can associate with. That's got to be my aim, and take the club forward.
Yeah, would you hope what you've done in the transfer window, what the club done in the transfer window, and what the club did yesterday might change a few minds?
I genuinely hope so. I think you've got to take a look at it and judge and think, well, they've certainly backed the new manager, that's for sure. And as I said at the top of the interview there, I couldn't have been any more delighted at what we've brought in. We've brought in some very, very good players who I'm sure the supporters will enjoy watching. Just
finally from me, we saw in the last couple of seasons under Rafa, teams set out to stay in games for as long as they could and hope they could maybe nick something. It looks as though the players that you've signed, and certainly the way that they're talking, we spoke to Alan St Maxim the other day, they want to go at teams. Can we see a more expansive Newcastle?
Well, of course. I mean, I've always said that you're only ever as good as your strikers, and I've said that since I've come into management. You know, you can defend as much as you got something at the top end of the pitch that can score you a goal, then you're always in the game, of course. And when we come against the big teams, like there's no bigger than Arsenal, then of course defensively you're going to have to be spot on. But I do think it's vitally important that you cause the other team, the other opponents, a threat. And we know we've got that threat at the top end of the pitch. Make no mistake about it, though, we're going to have to defend very, very well, because Arsenal have got some wonderful, wonderful attacking players. So let's defend well, and go when we get the opportunity to get forward, of course. Always a team of mine would try and play on the front foot if we can, and obviously score a goal. Thanks.
Steve, just on Andy, from speaking to him, do you get the sense that he feels he has something to prove, just given his injury record over the last few years?
I think it's only on injury, isn't it? He doesn't have anything to prove as a footballer. He's a wonderfully talented football player. When he's at his best, he's unplayable. When he was younger, you know, before he just got that move, and when he went to Liverpool, he was unplayable at times. He had that about him, because of his sheer physicality and his pace and his power and his technique. So we hope that we get a few glimpses of that. And but as I've just said in the other interview there, that it's in the dressing room that he can help a little bit too. He's a mature Andy Carroll now, and when I spoke to him a few days ago, all he talked about was his desire to come back and play for Newcastle, which was good to hear.
And just talk to us a bit about Emil Kraft as well, who's also come in. What will he bring to the squad?
Well, I've found it vitally important that if you try and look at the squad now, it's well balanced and have competition for places. And of course, Andre Edlund's had an operation which he's not recovered, so it became pretty. It became that we needed cover in that area. So he'll certainly give us that. He's an experienced player who's been on the radar for a long time. International footballer with 22 caps for Sweden. So he'll bring us that experience and know-how which obviously any team needs.
And from your perspective, what are your targets for Newcastle this season in the Premier League?
Always is to finish as high as we possibly can. Can we go and be better than what we were last year? Can we win a cup? Since I walked through the door, I'm going to try and prioritise the cups because of my experience a few years ago with Hull. If Hull can do it, then so can Newcastle, surely. So that's got to be a little bit of a priority, and just to take the club forward really and establish it as a real Premiership football club, because let's not forget, it's only a couple of years ago that the club was in the Championship, so that's still got to be the aim, to be finishing as high as we can and see what we can do.
And in terms of Arsenal, you mentioned how good they are going forward. Still question marks from some people over their defence. Obviously they brought in David Luiz and Kieran Tierney yesterday, but is that still perhaps an area of weakness that you can target?
Well, make no mistake, they were European finalists, You know, Arsenal is Arsenal. They're always a big club and have been for years. And of course, at the top end of the pitch, they've got some really top players. We're aware of that. And of course, yesterday they strengthened in that area what you're talking about. So I expect Arsenal to be very good. I think they've had a wonderful window. And when you always play the Arsenal, you always know that's going to be a tough game.
And in terms of Newcastle team news, where are you looking at in terms of the squad? You mentioned Andy Carroll won't be around for a couple of weeks.
No, all the young lads. I mean, Kraft hasn't even trained with us yet, and the other boys arrived only last Friday. So, you know, we've been all pre-season working on how we're going to play for this game. So, we've got one or two little injuries, but nothing really to report about.
That's great. Thank you very much.
Stevie, you must be the first Newcastle manager in, I can't remember how long, who says he wants to prioritise the cups. That will get you lots of brownie points with the fans.
Well, it came, as I said, when I walked through the door three weeks ago. When we got to an FA Cup final 3 years ago with Hull. If you ask the Hull supporters what their best day is not playing in the Premier League and surviving. It's the day out at Wembley. And we were 2-0 up against Arsenal and nearly got there. But if you ask them, the best day as a supporter is, and arguably my best day too, is the FA Cup final. So yes, the Premier League is the Premier League, and we've all got to stay there because that's why we're all here. But there's nothing better to try and get a FA Cup, a League Cup, a Carabao Cup, or whatever you call it these days. Why not?
You've made quite a lot of new signings, which is great on the one hand, but is it also tricky to try and get those players melded into the team?
Well, that's the big thing when, you know, 4 have arrived in a week. So it's very difficult. One hasn't even trained yet, Emile, and Andy Carroll, of course, only arrived yesterday. They haven't even trained with the team. So, of course, the quickly they settle down, and that any player who's coming from any league, you know, the quicker they hit the ground running, the better. And they're going to find it difficult to start with, just like us English are hopeless with travelling abroad, aren't we? Take forever to adjust. So yeah, given a bit of time, they'll need a bit of time, but I'm quietly confident that just watching some of them in training, that they'll be successful.
And all different nationalities as well, so there's that to bear in mind on top of it.
Yeah, I don't know how many different nationalities we've got. It'll be interesting to count them up. But yeah, it's amazing, the Premier League now, isn't it? You know, they come from far and wide, and I think that's what makes it the great spectacle that it is.
Listening to an interview with Alison Maximan the other day, he seems like a real character.
I think I'm going to have a bit of fun and games, that's for sure. You only have to meet him and interview him once that you think, aye. He's not your normal one, but he's eccentric off the pitch, and he's a little bit like that on it too. There's times where I think, does he know what he's doing? But you certainly, with that, he's got that natural flair, what gets you off the edge of your seat. Not many people have got it. He's not typical, is he? But I think I'm going to have my hands full on certain occasions, that's for sure.
But those players also can just turn.
Well, that's what we're hoping. In the big games, in the big moments, he can produce that little bit of magic which can win us a match. And how often do you see it? You know, the big teams have got it in abundance. That's why the great players play there. They can do something a little bit different and win you a game out of nothing. And let's hope Alan can do that for us.
So how excited are you ahead of this weekend?
I didn't think you could get excited when you get to my age, but yeah, looking forward to it. I mean, I've said it many times, if somebody had told me 3 weeks ago that I'd be sitting here going to face Arsenal on Sunday, I'd have said they were bonkers. To be given the opportunity is one of the highlights of a long career in 40 odd years. It's right up there with anything I've ever done. To go and manage this great club is unique to me, and I'm delighted to be here. So a little bit nervous, a little bit apprehensive, certainly excited. Let's hope I can give, and the team can give, more importantly the team can give the supporters something to shout about, and that's what I'm sitting here for. Thank you.
Steve, can I just ask you, you talked there about being excited, obviously you've had a few weeks in the job now. away from working at the club, have you sort of settled back into the city and being home?
Yeah, I mean we're in the house. We've been here 3 weeks, and yeah, it's still a little bit surreal, you know. But I'm back, and of course when you're grown up here, you know, there's still a few places where you had to get a tyre fixed up with Quick Fit yesterday, you know. I got a few funny faces looking in there. What the hell are you doing in here? You know, so yeah, it's good to be back. I'm one of them.
And just on the squad itself, I know obviously as part of the sort of Premier League rules you have to name a 25-man squad. Do you know in your head who's in and who's not?
Yeah, and I think more importantly the players who have left out now as well. It's that's one of the hard parts and the disappointing part of the job, because all of them have worked extremely hard, but unfortunately I've got to let 4 or 5 of them. I've got to let 4 or 5 of them down who can't get a squad number, which is not healthy, I have to say. But unfortunately, that's the rules.
Can I ask who those 4 or 5 are?
I think that would be wrong just yet. Give me a couple of hours.
But have you told them already, or you have to still have to tell them?
Yes.
You've told.
But I still need to speak to them again this morning.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Cheers.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Cheers.
Good to see you again.
I had to come in and these this morning, that's